like maybe he gets 15 minutes early on in the season as he plays better. Of course, Dwayne Casey will work him into playing more and more minutes. That's the identity of Dwayne Casey as we know it. He's going
Yep.
to ease these guys along, and I think with Duren too, I love his upside. That's what I think in the mentality he approaches the game with, which I think separates him from Andre Drummond.
What is going on? I want to welcome you from Half Court for today, the first day of August, the worst month of the year because that means there's pretty much no basketball at all. I am your host, Sean Murphy, alongside my guy, Jeff. It's a great month, though, in the sense that we have football coming back. So, Jeff,
True.
I know you're a Lions fan as well. I know we're excited about that. So, how you feeling about sports in general, and how you feeling right now as a whole, man? How's everything going?
It's been nice because all year we're so focused watching sports that during this time I like to get out and do other things, but it's hard, man. I'm
Yeah,
itching to get back. I know we've been
yeah,
watching
dude.
some things. Now League Pass is really our best friend because you can go back and watch a lot of moments. But yeah, I'm ready to get back. Whether it's
Yeah,
basketball, football, hockey, just to have that fall time of year into winter, and you get to see everything at once.
yeah.
I'm desperate.
Free tip, by the way. League passes recently after LeBron and DeMar DeRozan went to the Drew League. They've started to air and stream pro-am leagues, specifically when NBA players show up. So on Saturday they had Paulo and Chet at Jamal Crawford's league. So they teamed up and they both put on a show. So you can go back and watch that entire game without breaks all the way through on League Pass. And they also had the three Atlanta Hawks players, Trae Young, John Collins, all play in that league as well, which was on there today. So whole ton of stuff to
Good
watch
content.
still. Yeah, but in addition, it might also a great tool to go back and watch a lot of historical content. And real quick before we touch on what our main topic is, Jalen Duren, we would be remiss if we didn't at least talk about the legend of Bill Russell passing away tragically over the weekend. I mean, lived a great life, was an 11-time champion, was a multi-time defensive player of the year, was a civil rights activist, was just an icon in sports. And I don't know about you, Jeff, but to me, when I think of what it means to be a champion, what it means to build a team successfully and to play winning basketball, I feel like Bill Russell's the person that set that standard.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And you mentioned it. You kind of hinted at it too. Not just what he did on the court, but off the court as well. Being an activist, being the human he was, the icon he was. And Jerry Stackhouse came into the Woodward Sports offices last week, and he said it best. He's like, "Listen, if I need an NBA championship, he was talking all time. He's like, give me Bill Russell." And I think that's what gets lost too, especially in the modern times when guys are talking about the top players ever. You don't really hear Bill Russell a lot. It's LeBron, Michael Jordan, you hear Kobe, but Bill Russell is that guy, man. I mean,
He was an
what he did.
11-time champion.
Yes.
He literally has more rings than fingers. In all of those
He does.
championships, he was a key factor in. And this was
Mhm.
an age where I understand where people talk about like the guys that are playing as like plumbers and like that was their competition, but like the truth is like even though yes, the competition as a whole, the league wasn't as expansive as it is now, the competition near because of time and evolution just isn't the same. He still faced guys like Kareem. He still faced guys like Wilt Chamberlain, and like he still faced like he was in the era of giants, and he was the greatest of them all. He was the greatest, arguably the greatest defensive player to ever live. So
Yeah, yeah, and bigger than basketball. He was the most winningest athlete, I guess, of all time. If you want to put him in the category, it's him or Henry Richard of the
mhm.
NHL. Or they're both tied for the record for the most championships won by an athlete in a North American sport. So if you want to just take it off the basketball court, I think it's entirety too at the collegiate level, two-time NCAA champion for the San Francisco Dons. Like it's more
Yeah,
than just the NBA. Just as a winner, Bill Russell is that guy.
and
The accolades, what he meant, especially back then and lately. I mean, everyone remembers the funny moments of him flipping off Charles Barkley as well. Like there's recency, there's a lot of moments too. So
yeah.
you just got to appreciate it.
Well, and he gave back to the game in so many ways as well over time. He was the first black head coach in NBA history, won NBA championships as a head coach.
Yep.
In addition, was a role model to a lot of guys. We've seen a lot of clips and quotes of conversations he's had with Tim Duncan, with Kobe Bryant. This guy was always surrounding the game and was an activist and supporter and did it during a really difficult time during the civil rights movement and was trailing a path through that. But in addition, I don't think, I was going back and watching highlights of his today. And I don't think he gets enough credit as far as how amazing of an athlete Bill Russell was. I mean, this guy moving up and down the court was an absolute freaking fiend and could just jump over
Oh my,
everyone else. Like
yeah.
there was just nothing that anyone could do to stop him. He was insanely fat. Like people like talk about Giannis and everything that he does. Like there's no Giannis without Bill Russell. There's no
Mhm.
Shaq or there's no like you name any great big. Like Bill Russell paved the way of like what a great big man is. And so, yeah, man, the passing of Bill Russell is one that hits especially hard, probably the hardest since the Kobe passing. Definitely a sad day in the NBA world.
Yeah, especially considering Bill Russell's that guy you always just think he'll be there, no matter how old he is. Every event you always see Bill Russell. So to actually hear the news, it's heartbreaking, especially on a Sunday, man. To wake up and have to read that type of news, it's never good news, man.
Yeah.
So my thoughts and condolences are all with Bill Russell's family and
Mhm.
friends. And you, I think you said it best too. He paved the way for all the centers today. Now, all time greats. Still, like Shaq gives a lot of credit to Bill Russell as well. So true icon.
Yeah. And he also received the Presidential Medal of Honor or Medal of Freedom, which is the highest honor that you can receive. So Bill Russell passing away at the age of 88. Our thoughts and condolences are with the Russell family. Now, with that, Jeff, moving on, talking about from one of the greatest big men of all time to a current big that we're really excited about as far as a really young prospect that has a lot of promise in Jalen Duren. And specifically, this sparked over. I went on Woodward Heavyweights this last week on Friday. And before, Easy sends me a clip and says, "All right, we got to talk about this on the show," and goes specifically, who's going to have a higher impact on the Pistons their rookie year, Jaden Ivey or Jalen Duren? And part of the argument, he said, Jalen Duren going to stretch the floor? Should we get this man to coach Sheed? And listen, although the footage like is impressive, like we're seeing like Jalen Duren like ball handling. I mean, like this is basic stuff. He's not being guarded by real like NBA talent. He's not really getting actual
Yeah.
pressure. And then what? And then the last thing that we see is one jump shot, which I mean, the shot looked
It,
decent.
yeah.
Like it was good form, but it was wide open. And again, it was one jump shot. So, and here's the other thing I've seen, and I brought up this point on the show, and I'm not making the comparison to this player, but the point is, Jeff, I don't know about you, but as a Pistons fan, when Instagram was brought into my life, I saw a lot of Andre Drummond 3-point shooting throughout the summers on Instagram.
Got me
And
excited.
yeah, really had me believing that this guy was going to actually try to play like not quite be Joel Embiid, but a guy who tries to expand his game and be a little bit more dynamic offensively. That didn't happen, right? So I think it's important to say, first of all, Jeff, what was your first initial thoughts when you saw this footage? And what realistically should we expect of Jalen Duren his rookie year?
Well, I'll start with, I mean, especially it's encouraging. I'll start with that. It's exciting as a Pistons fan, but I think one thing for Duran too, people have to remember coming out of college, that was the biggest question for him is spacing the floor, how he'd fit in the modern NBA, and he struggled at the free throw line. So those things, and you're already seeing it through summer league, look a little better at the free throw line. And I think going into the season, seeing videos like this, it can be encouraging, but also you have to remember everything you just hit on as well with Andre Drummond. And we're not comparing the players, but simply guys hitting shots in an open gym. I mean, to say he's going to spread the floor this year, maybe that's something he can incorporate into his game down the line as he starts taking more reps at it. I mean, you've seen Isaiah Stewart, how much he's grown. But again, Isaiah was taking threes in college. Jalen Duren didn't take a single three. So it is a project. He's the youngest player in the draft. But again, I would have to lean on the same side you're on, which is like, guys, just slow down a little bit. My expectation for him this season, and also you have to think too, with these videos, he's not going to be in these types of situations in a game. Like like Jalen Duren's not going to be dribbling up the court. Like it's going to be a lot of systematic things. Maybe he can knock down a 15, 16 footer if he's open in a pick and roll, whatever it is, hitting open jump shots. That those will translate. And I like his jump shot way better than I ever liked Andre Drummond. So I will say that looks a lot more pure, and it looks like
Right.
he will be able to space the floor. It's like Isaiah Stewart. Once you see him shoot, you're like, all right, if he can work at that, he'll be all right. I think that's the same thing with Duren, but again, he's 18. There's
Yeah.
still some time. Plenty
Well,
of time.
and it's one thing to be seeing it from a player that's 18 years old, just drafted, working on his game before his NBA career starts. And it's a whole other thing to talk about a big who's trying to do that 7 years into his career, about 25 years old, was, heading
Different
into his
mentality.
actual prime. Yeah, exactly. Like he's at a point where it's like, all right, well, you pretty much know what you can do at this point to refine your skills and get better at the things that you can control. Whereas Jalen Duren's at a point where it's like, okay, well, you are very much at a point where, even though there's a lot of things that Jalen Duren does that looks like a grown man, and there's a lot of things that you can do as far as like getting to the rim that it's like, oh, well, this guy's ready now. I think at the same time,
It's
I
Pistons
I I
fans.
know, like, I don't think a lot of people tuned into that 3rd summer league game. I know during that, we were all kinda, like, bored out of our minds because not a whole lot was happening, but if you were tuning in a little bit, and I did remember watching a good amount of that game, that was really when Jalen Duren was the primary focus and was the primary offensive player, and they were running things through him, and through that was really kind of when you could get a better evaluation of skill wise where Jalen Duren was at. And although as an athlete, I would still say he's above everyone else on that court. I would still say skill wise, he's, for where he's at, he's in a very good place for his age. I think we need to recognize that, like, to start the season, he might get 10, 15 minutes a game. And I could be stretching it there. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's where it's gonna be.
That's the timetable we have for him. Like maybe he gets 15 minutes early on in the season as he plays better. Of course, Dwayne Casey will work him into playing more and more minutes. That's the identity of Dwayne Casey as we know it. He's going
Yep,
to ease these guys along, and I think with Duran too, I love his upside. Like, that's what I think in the mentality he approaches the game with, which I think separates him from Andre Drummond, just a completely different player. This is certainly encouraging. I love seeing this type of footage so early on in his career at 18. He's like, all right, let's get in the gym. Let's start expanding this game.
right.
And I know he eventually wants to get there, but you have to go through an NBA. Like you have to get. I want Jalen Duren to enter a game where there's a scouting report on Jalen Duren, and you're not in a practice gym where guys are like, all right, hands in your face, take the jump shot. Like now you're going into an NBA game where guys like, all right, we know where his spots are. I know how to get him off his spots. We know what he's going to do already. Like then, like you said, in summer league when he was the center of attention on offense or on defense rather, he struggled. And I think as time goes on, he'll start getting more comfortable as he plays more NBA games. But until then, this is all just work in progress. I'm not going to sit
Right.
here and say, Duren. Now, I do agree with Easy by saying we need Rasheed back because Rasheed, listen, that's a whole nother conversation, but I think Rasheed
Yeah,
would benefit a lot of guys. But just Easy saying, can he stretch the floor this year
yeah.
is where he not, maybe not this year, but going into his third year, who knows?
I don't yeah, and it would be awesome to have Sheed back on the staff. I don't know if I'm in this position where, like, I'm not gonna say outright say we need him because I think we have a really great
Yes, we
staff.
do.
We have Ben
We do.
Wallace in-house as an advisor. We, Troy Weaver and, Dwayne Casey and Nerlens Noel and Rashard Lewis is on staff as well. Like, there's a lot of really good names and minds in that locker room. I think we have a really solid culture. Now, having Rasheed there would, in my opinion, only propel his development even more, and to have that continuation of the person that was that voice and saw you that 1 year at Memphis and goes, okay, I know where you need to grow. I've seen where you're at now. I know who you are as a person. I can come in and help work with that. But in addition, be part of the Detroit Pistons again. Now, I know there was some animosity there with like disagreements, like the front office at some point. I'm not sure if those are still there or not, but I think if he'd be open to it, then of course, come into the fold again. Whatever role that is, whether it's an assistant coach, whether it's an advisor, whatever he wants it to be.
Right.
But with that, I still think Jalen Duren is going to have all the tools to develop and be what he wants to be. Ultimately, you know, Dwayne Casey set out the roadmap of what it's going to take for him to get out on the court during that press conference. And I feel like I feel like this is like one of those points where like I keep coming back to because it's important to remember. But it's like, Dwayne Casey said, the way you're going to get on the court on this team is
Hmm.
hustling up and down the court,
Absolutely.
rebounding the ball, and playing hard on defense. Like that's going to be the primary thing. So even though we're seeing this stuff from Jalen Duren on the offensive end, and we're seeing him try to stretch the floor and work on his handle and all these things, which are important for a big man to have, the first thing's going to be his hustle, what he does on defense, and getting up and down the court, rebounding the ball. So,
Hmm.
which there's no doubt that he can be great at that, but we just need to see him get good at that first on the NBA level, and then from there we can have a conversation about him stretching the floor.
I think one thing I'm most excited to add on top of everything you just said is how he punishes mismatches. That's what I'm looking. That's how you expand your offensive game as well. Like the more you get comfortable with guys switching on Jalen Duren, he's like, all right, I have the skill set. I've been working on these things. Let me take it to this man. That's what I'm looking forward to on top of everything else. Because one thing you could say about certain guys as they grow in this league, the ability to just punish guys down low. Whether every time Embiid's getting a mismatch, it's barbecue chicken, and that goes
All right.
across for all the top centers, even guys like DeAndre and different guys. So I think Jaren can get there, but I'm excited to see his development
Yeah.
because whether Rasheed's a part of the staff or not, he's going to be working with Rasheed. Like
Right.
they're already they're close contact, so I'm cool with it, man. I'm excited.
Right. And ultimately I think you touched on a great point. It's like he can ultimately get to that point of being like Joel Embiid and like these other centers where when it's a mismatch it's barbecue chicken where they can get their own offense and do whatever the heck they want. But he's going to come into a system where I think to start, I think he should lean into the luxury that he has where he doesn't have to force anything because he
Nope.
has guys like Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey and Killian Hayes and Sadiq Bey are going to be able to help him create offense for him. So I think just if he can learn to work with those guys, do the little things and learn the NBA game and just take the opportunities that are given to him in the flow of the offense, I think that and alone, he's going to be awesome because he can
Hmm.
at least get 10, 12 points a game just off lob opportunities alone. And then if he's getting back and then if he's getting after it on the offensive boards, that's another 4 points a game. That's you're looking at 16 points a game right there already, and that's not even offense it's designed around him. So you think about if you can have that kind of impact, that's huge. So
No, and that
um
and that goes into the athleticism as well.
yep,
Dude, his athleticism is going to buoy him very well this year, especially playing with playmakers like Jaden and Cade. My God, it's only going to make him even better, man. Even
I
better.
yeah. I was hesitant of the Dwight Howard comparisons at first. Then when I saw him play and how explosive he was, I was like, okay, yep. I yeah, I can see it. I can see the Dwight
Mhm.
Howard comparisons. I can see the Sean Kemp comparisons. It's just his athleticism and overall ferocity, man. It's just terrifying. It's
No,
it's
I feel bad for the net. I
yeah,
really do.
but at the same time, it's terrifying 3 to 4 years from now. Like I think that's the thing of like he is awesome as a prospect, but we have to be careful of not saying that our prospects are what we think they're going to be. I mean, that's what we hope he's going to be, but that's not
Right.
where he is yet. Right? So, just want to make sure we understand like where his realistic expectations are at and who knows, maybe by the end of the season it's a lock that he's our starting five. Like maybe he
Could
can
be.
earn that point, earn that role and get to that point. Like that's absolutely realistic. But he's going to have to earn that. And he's going to have to get to a point where he's trusted with that role. And he's going to have to clear some hurdles and do some things and grow his game and grow as a person to get to that point because that's what every player has to do. So, with that, what do you think of Jalen Duren's ceiling? What do you think of his overall prospect as a player? Let us know in the comment section down below. But that is going to do it for us today, folks. But before we close, Jeff, did you know that 66% of our viewers are not subscribed to From Half Court?
That's way too many.
Dude.
if you're watching this and you still have the subscribe option below, make sure it says subscribed. All
If
right,
you're tuned
hit that
in this
button.
far and you haven't smacked that with
What are
all
you
the
doing?
mighty in your
What are you
thumb,
doing?
what are you doing, man? Come on now.
Thank you for
You
watching, though.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for watching. We appreciate it, but be sure you're subscribed so you're tuned in for more because here at From
Mhm.
Half Court, we talk the Pistons, but we also talk NBA content. So be sure you're tuned into that. But with that, folks, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. We will catch you guys next time from Half Court. Be sure to subscribe.